Rev up your engines! Most new cars are selling for less than the MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Before they were jacking them up. People aren't buying them, so they got to give some discounts. Now here's the bad news. They're not making too many base models. So all the models they have are the luxury models that cost so much more. You're paying $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 more than the base model. Maybe you want the base model, right? I had a guy the other day. He bought a brand new Toyota, and he said, I couldn't get the base model. They didn't have any. So I had to get a more luxurious one that cost me $4,000 more. The good news is the MSRP, people are paying less instead of more. A lot of the cars they have are only the luxury limited ones that cost so much more. You're not saving any money in the long run. As the saying goes, you either pay or you pay if you're going to buy something. They'll figure out a way to rip you off one way or the other. Grandpa Fred says, my son wants a truck. He's a good student, responsible. Family likes Toyotas. I say an old truck. Like what you suggested. What do you think? Yep, you can find an old Toyota truck that isn't outrageously priced. The prices do seem to be coming down on used vehicles now. Those old Toyota trucks. My son was telling me, he was in Afghanistan for 2 tours. He says the Taliban, they love driving around in Toyota trucks because they were so dependable. They were often chasing after them with their helicopters. But they're still running down the road. Those old Toyotas could run a long time. That would be a very smart move if you can find a good one. Now, if you can't, he wants a truck. I'd say, look at Nissan Frontiers and Ford Rangers. They're generally a lot cheaper, and they're decent. They're not as good as the Toyotas, but if you can get one of those for like half or 1/3 the price of an equivalent Toyota, well, it's not that bad idea to go that route either. You always have to compare price with availability and longevity. Yeah, the Toyota will last the longest, but if you're paying tons more, Nissan or Ranger still might be a decent truck. MC Concrete says, what fuel additive you use when you put the camera in the spark plug hole? I saw your video. I'm trying to find a video on that additive. Okay, well, forget that video on that additive. That was a decent additive, but I found a better one. My friend Bernie is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He runs a company called ATS, Automotive Test Solutions, and they make a fuel injection cleaner that you just pour in a gas tank and you drive, and it gets rid of carbon better than anything I have ever seen. He and his partner used the Sandia Laboratory supercomputer, and they spent 8 years analyzing carbon deposits, found out there were various different types of carbon deposits in an engine, not just one. So they made a cleaner that they invented themselves that gets rid of all the different types of carbon. Man, it worked. I'll tell you, I'm amazed by it. You just got to Google Albuquerque, New Mexico, ATS fuel cleaner. You'll find it and you can buy it. It is amazing stuff. Now, sometimes he's out of stock because he's a small guy, but it's worth waiting because the stuff really does work. Plebby 498 says, I got an 04 Corolla and has a semi-rough idle. It's got 210,000 miles. Does anybody know how to fix it? It is a manual transmission. Well, so right off the bat, we know it's not your automatic transmission torque converter. They can kind of make them rough. They can make them idle rough if the torque converter is sticking, but you don't have a torque converter. You got a manual transmission. So first thing, check for vacuum leaks. Open the hood. If you're a sucking sound, there's a vacuum leak. A hose fell off or got a rot in a hole or something. Easy to fix that, right? If not that, try my video. Make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. Type that on YouTube. Watch my YouTube video. You can clean the throttle. You can clean the mass airflow sensor. That will often fix it. Now, if it doesn't, put some good fuel injector cleaner in the gas tank. It could be your fuel injectors are somewhat worn and dirty and carboned up, and then when they're going slow, they'll dribble gas, which makes it idle weird, but when you're going really fast, it's spraying so much gas and the engine's running so fast, it doesn't affect that at all. So, but do try the first 2 fixes, because they will often fix it. A vacuum leak or cleaning the throttle and the mass airflow sensor will often fix a little shaky idle. Julie Bully says, why are new Honda brakes making a whoo sound sometimes? I got a new 2022 Honda CR-V, 1,750 miles. Sometimes I drive and pull in the parking lot, I hear a soft whoo. Occurs once in a while. I took it to the dealer and they said, oh, a caliper needed more lube, so they did all 4 wheels, and now it's even louder than it was. Okay, what could it be? All right, one, they're just BSing you. Why would a brand new car need lubrication on the brake pins? They're made with stuff when they're from the factory. That's just a bunch of baloney. I've seen it before. And you know what it is? What it is that they put crappy brake pads on those cars, and they're making noise. There are various types of brake materials out there, and the ones that aren't made correctly will often make noise. Now, it probably stops perfectly fine, no problems at all. Now, because it's a new car and they might not be available, but if you can get Akebono, A-K-E-B-O-N-O, it's a Japanese company, brake pads have your brake pads switched out the back of Bono. Those are the best ceramic pads, and they never make noise. And I just about guarantee you the noise will go away then. It's the material they're putting in those brake pads. They don't want to admit it because, of course, Honda, all they're going to do is put other Honda pads on, and if the Honda pads are making that noise, new Honda pads are going to make the same noise. This often happens when they change a little bit of the material, and they find out, oh, geez, these things are making a noise now. They're not going to use somebody else's company's pads on them, but I do all the time, and with the Bono pads, they always quiet them down. Aiden Hickey says, should I become a mechanic? I'm 23. I got a 4-year accounting degree. I got interested in cars. I've been working as an accountant for a year, and I'm wondering if a mechanic would be more for me. What would you do if you were in my shoes and were 23 again? You know, I ran my own business for 40-something years, fixing cars. I liked it for 2 reasons. I'm good with my hands, and it's kind of satisfaction that you got a job, you fix it, it's done, you feel like you did something, then you get another one, right? Most people that work in offices, they got paperwork, they don't feel like they're doing anything useful, they hate their job, and it drives them nuts, right? You obviously don't find accountancy all that exciting because you say you do it for a year and you're wondering, should I be a mechanic? Make sure you don't mind getting your hands dirty. You want to learn today about electronics. Back in my day, the electronics were so simple, it wasn't that big of a deal. Today, everything's computerized. If you like working with electronics and computers, by all means, get into it because they're going to become more electrified, more computerized as time goes on. And if you like doing that kind of work, great. But if you don't like working with computers and electronics, don't even think about becoming a mechanic today because they're all going that way. All right, Nick, he says, how do I replace lost keys? I lost keys to a 2001 F-150. I called the locksmith. He said it'd be $350 to get a new key encoded. Can I get a new key and cylinder and then would that be good to go? Or I have to still get it coded? Could I do it myself? No, you really can't do it yourself. The Ford immobilizer systems are really crazy things. You could buy the key and a cylinder. It's still not going to start. It would have to be programmed to work with the computer that's in the car. You'd have to make sure you got the right key, the right cylinder, and you're going to have to replace all that crap. You might try to find a mobile mechanic that perhaps doesn't charge as much. When I was in Houston years ago, I found a really nice guy from Pakistan and his wife, and he did house calls, and he only charged $60 for the house call, and a lot of times he'd do something like that for a couple $100. So you might price around, but don't try doing it yourself. You get in a rat's nest. You don't have the equipment to reprogram them. If you had to change the cylinder, that's a real job. Taking a steering column apart to replace all that stuff. So try to find a locksmith that'll do it cheaper. There's lots of guys out there. Brody Oberreichen says, a Chevy Aveo is any good? I get one that gets 22 miles a gallon. Well, actually, that's horrendous gas mileage for that tiny car. It should get much better gas mileage. Now, realize Chevy Aveos, it's not really a Chevy. You know, they're made overseas somewhere. 22 miles a gallon for that tiny car is horrible. Have somebody like me look at it, see if it needs a tune-up, see if the transmission is shifting correctly. It should get much, much better than 22 miles a gallon. I mean, that's insanely high fuel consumption for a little car like that. I mean, I've had customers with them. Most of them ended up hating them because they fell apart. The engines broke, the transmissions broke. But at least they got really good 30-something miles a gallon. You're getting horrible gas mileage. There's got to be something wrong with that vehicle. Well, if you didn't listen to me about cryptocurrency being a gigantic fraud, well, guess what? The dominoes are starting to fall down, one right after another. The crypto lender Genesis has just filed for bankruptcy. They all are intertwined with the collapse of the FTX, billions of dollars. Basically, it's worse than dominoes because these are more or less like pyramid schemes. And it's a bunch of pyramids knocking each other down the line with an awful lot of money in them. And of course, there's plenty more to go down the line. For example, Genesis clients, the one that just filed for bankruptcy, include Circle, which operates a stable coin, USD coin, and Gemini, which is backed by the Winklevoss twins. If anything, that's telling you pyramid scheme, Ponzi schemes. Hey, all his relatives were involved in it too, obviously. These guys are just scheming to get your money. Viewers that came over the other day told me, hey, Scotty, my daddy gave me good advice. He said, don't invest in anything that you can't stand on. Meaning invest in land. Well, I guess you could stand on a car if you wanted to, but he was talking about investing in real things that are out there that you can stand on and walk around it. Not some cryptocurrency. And you can see now they're all starting to tumble around. Everybody's wondering, where did the money go? Well, guess what? There never was anything back in it. It was just an idea these guys had. They figured they could make money. And they made money. A lot of them obviously gambled it away or just blew it because they didn't know what they were doing. These guys might be computer computer geniuses. Doesn't mean they know anything at all about economics. They just suckered all these people into buying the stuff, and then when it's gone, everybody wonders what happened. Well, I'll tell you what happened. You started with nothing, you invested in nothing, and then what do you got? Nothing. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.